Hi guys, and welcome to another random ass video. It's been about 2 weeks since I did my last one where I talked about when I quit smoking, and I got so many amazing comments from people, and I was really excited and really liked that people were touched by it, and people were going through, either had gone through the same struggle or were going through the same struggles, and were somehow able to relate to my story. And so that is sort of always like the purpose of sharing, right? So today's random ass story is about how I came to LA, and I think I'm gonna start sharing sort of bits and pieces of my story. I was featured in Gary Vaynerchuk's most recent book called Crushing It. And in there, my story was featured, or a synopsis, I guess, of my story was featured. And I got so many messages, people sliding in my DMs, leaving comments on my YouTube videos, sending me emails, saying that they had just finished reading my section in Gary's book and were sort of touched and inspired by my story. And so I thought that I should probably talk about it a little bit more in bits and pieces, because it's just a lot, and I think that everybody goes through very similar stories, some not as tragic, some not as devastating, some are just sort of sad things that people go through in life that, you know, sort of happen to us, and you know, we make the best that we can with what we have. So today I thought that I would just share a little bit about that, and then maybe talk a little bit more over time. It just depends. It's not always the easiest subjects to talk about, so not so much that I avoid them, because I talk pretty honestly and openly about my life, but just because, you know, it's always personal stuff, and you know. So anyway, let's see. I left Chicago when I was 15 years old. So I was born in Puerto Rico. My mom and my dad were married, and unfortunately my dad had an affair and him and my mom ended up splitting up. My mom took me when I was 2 years old, and we moved to Chicago. So that's where I ended up, in Chicago, and I grew up in Chicago, which was great. You know, I love Chicago. Chicago's an amazing city. If you've never been, you absolutely have to go. You know, the thing about Chicago is that I don't really remember a whole lot of my younger life. Like, I don't know, I remember like bits and pieces. I see, I'll get like a memory of something, and I don't always know if it's real. So I will, a lot of times, you know, tell my mom, hey mom, did this happen, or is this something that I've imagined? And then, you know, most of the time, actually all of the time so far, have been things that have actually happened. And that, I don't know if I've repressed certain memories. I don't know, you know, I have friends that remember being 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, that remember names of schools they went to and kids they went to school with and teachers they had, and I don't remember shit. I don't remember myself as a 3, 4, 5-year-old. Hell, I don't even remember myself as a 7 or 8-year-old. I don't remember what I did. I don't remember who I played with. I don't remember names of teachers. I don't remember names of kids that I went to school with. I just have these like flashes of me in a yellow and green dress, me, you know, with my mom at IHOP, or like, it's just like these little bits and pieces that I get, and I don't know why. I don't know why I don't remember certain things. And I've had, you know, because of the popularity on social media, you have people that come sort of out of nowhere, like, we went to school together, and I'm like, I literally don't remember. And it's terrible. It's really awful to not remember huge chunks of your life. When I grew up in Chicago, my mom was a single mom and she worked her ass off. She had at some points 2 full-time jobs. So I was very much a latchkey kid, you know. I went to school, I came home, I fed myself, you know, and mom sort of came in late because, you know, she worked, to, you know, and that's one thing that I will say. I always had good clothes. We always lived in nice apartments, and I didn't really ever need for anything, honestly. I didn't, you know. When the Nintendo came out, Ma got me the Nintendo. You know, I was like the only kid, you know, in my neighborhood who had a waterbed because Mom bought me a waterbed. And I used to put my Barbies in a shoebox and sit them on my waterbed, and I would push the waterbed and make my my Barbies go up and down like they were at sea. Weird stuff. I had a bajillion holes in my waterbed. I told you this is gonna be a random ass story. There's gonna be just like random pieces of stuff. Cause you know, I was sort of a messy kid, and so I always had things falling into my waterbed. So it was always leaking, and I would always have to like use these patches that came with your waterbed to like fix it, cause I had like water springing out of random places. But you know, I remember spending a lot of time alone and in my room, and I would listen to music. I remember that. I remember drawing dresses. I was always drawing dresses. I guess I wanted to be a fashion designer, I don't know. But I liked drawing things, so I would draw a lot of dresses and things like that. I remember Saturdays. I think it's because it was a really good time for me. So I remember on Saturdays, my mom and my aunt and my cousins and me would go to IHOP on Saturdays, and I would always get chocolate chip pancakes with extra chips and extra whipped cream. And those are really good memories. I remember that. And I remember, I don't remember the schools that I went to. Like, I don't exactly remember going to like grade schools. I remember high school, the first year of high school. And I'll get to that story later on in my random ass stories. But like I said, I remember bits and pieces. And I remember bad stuff, you know. I don't remember all the bad stuff, but I think that might be on purpose. But I remember some, you know, a lot of the bad stuff, you know. I ended up running away from home when I was 15 years old because of what I perceived to be all the bad stuff. You know, I come from a dysfunctional Latino family, very much dysfunctional. You know, the kind of dysfunction that when there's sexual abuse in the family, nobody does anything, you know. I don't know if conversations are had behind closed doors, and, you know, we as kids were just not privy to them, but nothing happened, you know. Nobody got in trouble, nobody went to jail, nobody did anything, you know. You still kept seeing those people that did all these things. It's like, you know, and that's, you know, for me, I thought it was normal, right? Back then I thought that's how it was. Like, somebody did something to you, but it's family, so you just don't do anything. But then you later find out that that's not the way shit is, and that when people do disgusting things like that, that something needs to be done. And, you know, I think that a lot of the hiding, or a lot of the not doing something about it, had something to do because of my grandmother. I don't know if it was to, I don't know, keep her from, I don't know. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you. I could not tell you, because I will tell you that as an adult and as a mother, if somebody hurt one of my kids, sexually molested one of my kids, sexually assaulted one of my kids, I am going to do everything possible to make sure that that person pays for what they did, gets put away, and there's some sort of justice. But like I said, that just didn't happen in my family, and I'm not the only one who you know, had to go through those things. You know, I know that some of other family members, you know, which I won't mention because it's their private life. So, you know, if they want to share with whoever, that's up to them. But I know I'm not the only person, the only girl in our family who experienced that, you know, and aside from that, there were a lot of other things that happened, you know, that just were not good. And I think at a certain point when I left home, I used to blame my family, blame my mom for not doing something, or for, I don't know. But you know, when you grow up and you get older, you start to realize that people do things for a lot of different reasons, and you don't always understand people's motives or why they choose not to do certain things. And that really the only person to blame is the person who hurt you. And you know, you make a decision to either heal from it and move forward, or you don't heal from it. And the longer I think that you go without healing and without forgiving, not so much forgiving the way that I think people think, because I remember having a conversation with my mom, and one of the things that she had said to me was that, you know, because she's a Christian, she forgives. And I understand that, right? I think that to a certain extent you need to, I don't know about forgiving the other person. Honestly, I don't. Forgiving yourself, because I think that when things like that happen to you, you tend to sometimes blame yourself or think you did something wrong, or I don't know. But forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that you have to forget or that you have to continue to be around that person. And so that's one of the things that I had an issue with. You can forgive whoever you want to forgive, but it doesn't mean you have to be around them or subject yourself to being around them, you know, after something happens. But that's sort of what we did, right? We just sort of kept going like, like nothing had ever happened. And I think my family is in a different sort of place now, although I don't have a very close relationship with a lot of them. I just went back home after like 18 years. A couple of years ago when my grandmother passed away was the first time that I had even seen some of my family, like I said, in over 18 years, because when I left home, I didn't go back. And that was kind of a trip, right? To like see all these people after so long. But anyway, I wanted to share part of that story. And I think I'll share, you know, like more like what happened, you know, after I left, and maybe some of the reasons why I left. The only reason that I've been, I don't know if it's hesitant is the word, in sharing, is because my stories always involve other people. And I, you know, I appreciate other people's privacy. And so I don't always like to discuss things, because then I have, you know, I don't want to necessarily reveal other people's business. But it is my story, and it's shit that I went through, and, you know, and you have that right to like share your story and tell people things that you've been through, because you never know who you're helping, and you absolutely never know if something you say could help somebody else. And it took me a really long time to get over some of the things that happened to me when I was a kid. Things that I didn't even know I was dealing with, that I later found out were sort of an effect of what had happened, or I don't know, some kind of lingering something that I was holding on to that was causing me to do other things, make bad decisions, be emotionally closed off. Like, there are so many different things that I've had to deal with. You know, be comfortable around men early on without being afraid or nervous, or but you know, I've dealt with a lot of that, And you know, and I was able to sort of build this life for myself where I think I still try to figure out the best way of doing things, you know. And so I think it's helpful for people to know other people's stories, because it helps you understand that things that happen to you happen to a lot of people, and you're not by yourself, and you're not the only one going through whatever specific thing you're going through, and that you can get past anything in your life if you really want to. And I guess that's sort of the message of my random ass story today, is that your circumstances, whether it's past circumstances or circumstances you currently find yourself in, don't predict your future. Don't have anything to do with what you can do for your life and what you can overcome, and certainly has nothing to do with where you can end up, because if somebody would have told me that I would be in the position that I am today, I wouldn't have believed them. So I hope this encouraged somebody, and I will, like I said, share a little bit more of my story as I go through some of these random ass stories, in hopes that, you know, somebody will be encouraged or motivated. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.